Dear me, remember when we used to get lost in yesterday? Always trying to forecast the next move. We've grown since then. Instead of just predicting what's next, we've learned the power of crafting it. Let's continue shaping our tomorrows, starting today. Love, present me. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Power Up Project. My name is Jason Tharp, resilience expert, brain cancer survivor, just here paving the way to the future. And I want to talk to you a little bit about our past and how much we use the past to think we're shaping a future while avoiding the present. And I want to really drive on this idea of how much we spend dwelling on all of our past experiences. Instead of looking at our past of what it could be, we tend to get caught up in what was the bad story in that past. And then we continue to carry that into what we think is going to be a future that we're predicting, but we're really not. We're creating that future right now because we're busy living in the past. And if you continue to think like that, you're going to keep making a future that seems same as always. And I really wanted to kind of share some of the stuff I've learned in the process of redefining what is actually possible in our lives and what I've learned along my journey into diving into all the impossibles and overcoming all the mess that I've had to overcome. And what I've learned is that the reason why those past experiences are so important is because they had a big impact. And those big impacts, we tend to blanket as a big statement. You know, I felt like I was bullied a lot growing up as a kid, when the truth probably is I wasn't bullied nowhere near what I thought I was. But it was such a profound impact that I carried that over to a blanket statement. And then I allowed that blanket statement to be part of what was my present experience. So I was looking for that stuff to happen all the time. I was always out looking for a thing that would drop the hammer on what I was trying to do, or the person that was bullying me, or you name it, been there, done that. And it came out as this sort of self-loathing. It was like I didn't deserve to have the good stuff. Instead, I only deserved to have all the bad stuff. And thus I kept creating scenarios where I would continue to see the bad stuff. And then with the clarity of going through the tumor and all of these different things, what you start to do is you get to pull away. And in that pull away, what you get to see is you get to see things for what they are. And instead of seeing it as bullied all the time, I was able to look at that and say, well, what did I learn in these scenarios? What can I now take from this past experience and apply to my present moment to then start to break the chains of trying to predict a future? In a lot of ways, what I learned how to do was how to avoid the habit of being me, myself, my old self. And it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes tons of patience. And I don't even think I'm a master of it now, but what I am really pretty good at right now is forgiving myself for past mistakes, for having negative thoughts, giving myself the moment and the space to be graceful towards myself, in that I'm not constantly treating myself like a punching bag. And when we're always, another thing that happens when we're always stuck in this past thing is we become trapped in this illusion. It's kind of like a magic trick we've played on ourselves, where we think that we can predict this future if we just do everything to avoid all the stuff in the past. And that works to a certain extent, but what we're, I think, failing to recognize is that the lesson that is there is that you have to act as if somebody that is not going to experience this again. You need to learn what it is about that made you feel this way, and what you did to get yourself there, and how I can now take that and transform it to the present moment and change it. Because the reality is that past probably isn't what you thought it was, and we can change and shift to create a future that will be what we want if we learn to just understand what you don't like about that instead of recreating. And then also notice that you have the power of choice. you have a choice in your life. Maybe you're the first time that anybody's ever told you this, because I know a lot of times we feel as humans that our lives are dictated to us by outside forces. We feel like that other people are telling us what we're allowed to feel or what we're allowed to go through, and that's true. And I think a lot of cases when you're a kid, when you don't have that ability to go out there and do and say. Now, the bummer of that is that it forms a lot of our personalities that we as adults later have to go through therapy and try to figure out how to undo. It's a vicious cycle. And, I wish that I could give you a shortcut for it, but there really isn't one. But there is the power of choice that exists. You can choose at any moment. You can choose it right now. That if you're tired of going through the thing that you're going through right now, whatever it is for you, if you feel like you're at the end of the rope, that there's no hope for you, that everything and everybody is telling you all the reasons why you can't do that thing, you have a choice. You can either believe them and continue to do exactly what you're doing, or you can choose to change it. Instead of trying to predict what this future is going to be, thinking, oh, if I just do this, if I just do that, understand that right now, this is my reality. And in this reality, I can make the choice to build towards a future I want. Forget the noise of the past, but I can build towards the future I want. And then a gate starts opening up for yourself. And then you start creating this future versus predicting this future. When we create, we allow our hearts to open up. We are open to possibilities. We are looking at something as nothing and being able to shape it into something instead of trying to force it into something it'll never be. And I think that is the key. I could tell you from being a creative myself was my best stuff came out of not really knowing what it was going to be, but just kind of trusting the process that what I was trying to do would eventually get there. Now, that doesn't mean that when I got there, it was a finished piece. It might have just been a lesson. It might have been a way to figure out a new way to draw something a different way for me, or figuring out how to connect the dots to something, or understanding how different colors work to each other. It was failing with grace versus failing with shame. And in that process, learning what I could do and bring forward into the other stuff, the other parts. And then I also want to talk about the importance of just embracing the unknown. When you're available to all possibilities, you open the world up for yourself. Nobody's got a blueprint of what your life is going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen the second you stop this. We don't know what's going to happen the second you get behind the wheel of a car or whatever. If you think about even being behind a car when you're driving at night and you only see as far as your headlights, you trust that the road is going to be there. It's kind of unknown. You don't really know, unless you've been on that road a million times, what way it's going to turn and stuff like that. But you trust that the road's going to be there. It's not just going to disappear. I wonder what would happen if we started to embrace that stuff in our lives. We started to embrace the idea that maybe you don't know, and that's okay. But I do know what I'm willing to accept for myself. And it's my willingness to accept the unknown that will allow me to be open to possibilities of a future that has all the stuff that I would like to have for myself. And then you can start laying the foundation for all of this good that's coming your way. And I think for me, that was a big thing I kept getting churned in. I thought all that was coming my way was bad stuff. And then when I started shifting from telling myself that all I see is bad into there's so much good coming my way, things started to change a little bit. I started to change my mindset. It wasn't that all things overnight magically disappeared, but what I started to do was to change the way I thought about things. And that was the beginning, right? This is where hope takes over. This is where having that little spark of a starting point and you can start to apply those things will actually help you build to where you want to go. So what I want to do is just encourage all of you that are listening to this to just seize your power. Like, don't be afraid to step into the version of you that you want to do, that you want to be. And instead of thinking that what you are is stuck in this life and this is as good as it gets for you, what would happen if instead you understood that there are an endless supply of possibilities for you, that you have the power to change anything that you want and just to snap. You don't have to live in a world where everybody thinks for you, that you can actually think for yourself and instead create for yourself. There's a lot of magic in creating. If you just embrace the fact that you may not be a creative person by nature, you may think that you're not creative, but you're creating every day. You are doing things that you don't even realize that is creating your future, whether it be what you don't want or what you do want. So if you're going to create anyway, you might as well create something that you're looking forward to creating and understand that you actually have the power to change that. It's in your choices. So to kind of leave you all with a little bit of a power up, I just want to remind you that your past has so much to teach you. It's about moving on, creating a future that you want to see, and stop creating a world that you don't want to see. Be cool with your stumbles. Be all right in your heartbreaks with yourself. Be forgiving when you mess up. And be graceful for yourself when you don't know what the heck you're doing, but you're just trusting by putting one foot in front of the other. Life is unpredictable. It's magical. It's pretty awesome if you open yourself up to what it could be instead of all the things that you don't want it to be. And I think that is the beginning of change for you. I hope this helps. Power up.
Foxland Media. Think big.